Welcome to the Common Ground podcast, where stories connect, perspectives collide, and purpose is found in the middle.
Every week, we sit down with unique and inspiring guests that come from all walks of life. People who challenge the status quo, overcome the odds, and live with intentionality.
Whether you're driving to work, on your morning walk, or just looking for that spark to ignite your week, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast with your hosts, John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin.
Welcome to another edition of the Common Ground podcast. That's right. It is your boy, as always, here in the flesh. That's right, John. You can call me Philly. You can call me anything. Just don't call me late for dinner. All right. And as always, I have with me, you know what? She may be down, but she is not out. She may steal your blankets at night, but I wouldn't know. She may eat the last piece of cake in the refrigerator. She is my partner in crime. She is Miss Sydney Nicole. How you doing, Sydney?
Hey, Philly, how's it going?
I'm doing fantastic.
Usually my kids steal the last piece of cake, though. I'm not going to lie to you.
Hey,
That's mom.
that's the story. That's what I've heard.
That's
You know,
we don't
whether
know.
it's true or not, you know,
Different story.
blame the kids. I get it. You know, it's the kids. It wasn't me.
Just saying.
That's why we have kids, right? So we can blame them for all the stuff that we do in the middle of the night that nobody knows about, right?
My son almost killed me. He's my scapegoat for life.
Yeah. You win every argument with somebody that used to be one of your fluids. Like anybody that I like made with my own body, like I built you out of pizza.
Yes.
You know, and I'm just a dad. Like I barely contributed. If you acted as an oven, you don't get a say at all. You're lucky I let you live.
You did eat the last piece of cake, in other words.
Darn right.
I don't know if I told you, but this weekend I invited my girlfriend to go to the gym with me, and then I didn't show up. I wonder if she got the message that we're not going to work out.
Very good.
That's terrible. It's so bad. Okay. All right.
All right, hold on. I got one more to try to redeem, but I don't think I'm going to redeem myself with this one.
The cake was better.
I'm ready.
I asked my trainer at the gym if I could start shadow boxing. He said, sure, knock yourself out.
It's better. I like it. Fan.
All right, guys, you know the drill. Rate which dad joke you prefer down in the comments below. Let us know. Submit your own dad joke to be read here live on the Common Ground podcast. So, yes, now that we got the humor part out of our podcast, we can get to the nits and grits, right?
Mm-hmm. No more fun.
No more fun.
No more.
Man.
Everything is going to be miserable now. Let's talk about how you're ruining your children.
Tax season. Taxes.
Yeah. Taxes are due in 2 days, and
Public service announcement.
Yeah. Your focus on travel ball is ruining your child's childhood. You're living vicariously through them, and you should pray about that and let your kid be a kid.
It'll definitely help if I start doing my taxes, right?
Details. My God.
Dude, I got an email from the guy doing my taxes right before before I came in here to turn this on. And I sat there for a minute going, do I look at this before I have to be in public, or do I not?
Yeah.
So I did not. I have a looming
email. Just
how bad is it gonna be?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the guy who April 14th every night is hitting submit at 11:59 for my taxes.
Nice.
I literally wait till the last second possible. But let's get this party started. Joining us today is a man who literally hammering away at the status quo of fitness. He is the inventor and founder of BAMF Hammer. That's BAMF Hammer. Just so that you know, correctly, a tool designed to bridge the gap between raw bodybuilding and elite mobile functionality. With over 15 years in the industry, he's done it all from coaching at Iron Tribe and Camp Gladiator to competing on the national stage of American Ninja Warrior. But beyond the muscle, he's on a mission to help people break free from the idols of the mirror and the meal to find true joy in their health. Please welcome the creator of the heroic training method and the driving force behind Banff Hammer HQ, Mr. Shawn Richardson. How you doing,
Hello.
Shawn?
I am doing well. I am doing well. It's good to see you again, John.
Thanks for being here. And
Yeah.
tell our listeners, where are you calling in from?
So HQ is Ackworth, Georgia. It's about, well, depending on traffic, it could be anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes north of Atlanta. But we're outside the perimeter, just north of Marietta.
Okay, very nice. Is that home for you? Is that where you're originally from?
Not originally. So I was born just south of Richmond, Virginia, a little place called Chesterfield. Spent 4 years in North Carolina at college, Elon University, and then moved to Los Angeles, which is a terrible place, for 7 years. And it's been 13 years now that we've been in Georgia.
Okay, very nice. And there's a lot to you. I know that our focus today is some of the really cool things that you've done, but give us the 30,000-foot view just on who you are outside of some of your fitness endeavors.
Outside of fitness endeavors, are there stuff? I've narrated some audiobooks. So as a kid, I had more comic books than friends. I've said that before, and my best friend has been like, "Hey," but far too influenced by X-Men and all the rest of it. Big Spider-Man guy. Got into acting when I was in middle school for some probably really unhealthy emotional reasons. But had a talent for it. So pursued that through high school, ended up getting a scholarship to do it at college. Um, Moved to Los Angeles after I graduated. It really didn't take very long to realize that while I was good at the craft, I was bad at the business. And that fell through. And that was the transition into the fitness space. I kind of got dragged to the gym when I was in college by a guy that I didn't know was on steroids, but he was, and spent a decent amount of time in different disciplines on the bodybuilding side of things, a little bit of powerlifting, but never really had a good coach. So I wasn't very good at it. And I really just like climbing trees and throwing rocks. So that's what I started doing most consistently. And then somebody comes up and goes, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing, but can I pay you to
To teach me how to
teach
climb
me how to
trees?
do it?" And you go, "Weird. Oh, sure." And so that's kind of been the thing since then. I've got 3 kids. Yeah, my house burned down once. I'm divorced, remarried, have cats. Uh,
I love
I'm-
how casual you are about that. I really just have to we go from, I was climbing trees and throwing rocks. My house burned down one day. That was crazy. I've
well,
got some cats, and I just really love that persona on you. It's suiting. It's
I mean,
just, it's all the same tone. We're just very level about this. These are the facts.
like,
It's very
so,
marvelous, right? It's very marvelous. Like,
yeah,
dude,
that's what it is.
I just went to
I
work,
can't, I'm
saved a
getting
couple
Iron Man.
people, and
Yeah, I
took down
I
a bad
learned
guy.
something interesting so when the house burned down, I was making a sandwich and I was grilling it on my stovetop. And I realized, it was way after the fact, after the shock is worn off, where you go, "Huh, our relationship with smoke detectors is very similar to our relationship culturally with car alarms. When you hear a car alarm go off, you don't think, 'Oh no, a theft.' You go, 'What jerk is not paying?'" So the smoke alarm started going off my house, and I was grilling a sandwich, and I went, "I'm not burning this sandwich." Never, no thought came into my mind that maybe there was something wrong. It was immediate response, factory malfunction. This stupid machine doesn't work. And so I did not rush. I finished making my sandwich. I turned the stovetop off, and then I peeked my head around the corner and looked up at the alarm, and there's just black smoke pouring out of the drain in my kid's bathtub. And then I lost my mind. And did all the things you're not supposed to do. I called I called the fire department and I turned on the hose and I'm trying to put the fire out with the hose. That's not working. And I'm like, oh no, the van is gonna melt. So I run back inside, not supposed to do that. Grabbed my wallet, my keys. I threw my wallet into the yard because it was so hot already. And then I grabbed my keys, got in the van, backed the van up. And by that point, one of my neighbors was running over and we were going, where are the dogs? Like that. And then I just sat in a neighbor's yard and was like, oh, this is what it's like to watch everything you own burn.
We can't imagine.
Fun. And my ex-wife and I were still married at the time. And but she was doing a presentation in Tennessee, like up in Chattanooga. She and her boss were like up doing this big pitch, and it was supposed to be this pivotal thing. So I called her, and I knew she wasn't going to pick up because she's in this meeting. But I'm not going to text the house is on fire because it's going to ruin this pitch. And now I'm thinking we really need her job because I'm a stay-at-home dad. So I just call and was like, hey, when you get out of the meeting, I need you to call me. Something is happening. But priorities, finish your meeting. What I did not know was that 3 of our neighbors were blowing up her phone like, your house is on fire. We're all going to die.
Yes, they were.
And
oh my gosh.
There was this weird indignancy about it for me where I found myself like talking to these people later going, what makes you think you get to tell her the house is on fire? I made a decision as the leader of this family that this was a priority. There's nothing she can do. She's in another state. And so how dare you? So everything's gone.
I respect the logic of men in general here. Like the fact that in the middle of that chaos, you were like, we really need your job right now because everything just went up in flames.
I need this pitch to be good.
I love that. And the fact that there's just some Karen next door that's like demon dialing your wife.
I mean, they were all good friends, so I don't like begrudge any of them, even though none of them speak to me anymore. Sure. But it's just like, yeah, sure. You think it's the best plan, so go for it. None of them are actually named Karen, but it was a Karenish move.
I felt like that was appropriate. I don't know their names. I know that all of my neighbors have the same names, and I'm not sure why. I have 3 Anthonys, quite literally. So there's that. But yeah, that's pretty wild. So what did you like? Not to digress, like that's an event that happens. But what did you study in college? Because there was a big change in the fitness.
Sure. So I have an acting degree. I have a degree in theater and a degree in theatrical design. So I make believe and I build the sets for make believe. That is what I am most qualified in the world to do. Which functionally means I'm just better at tea parties than the average 6-year-old girl because I can really live into it.
Is that what we should be doing right now? I feel like we should be having this.
I mean, I feel like your coffee cup is weak sauce. Like you're not caffeinating.
Here's the thing, I have 2, and I don't know. You're right.
See, that's cheating. You just haven't invested in a large enough coffee cup.
She stole my coffee mug in the middle of the night.
He just passed it to me through. It was like.
So yeah, I have an acting degree from Elon University in North Carolina. I spent a couple of years doing live theater on the Outer Banks of North Carolina during the summer. Did some stuff when I was out in Los Angeles. Real small, nothing important, nothing to write home about. Honestly, the biggest thing I've done entertainment wise has probably been the Ninja Warrior run, even though I was only on that for maybe 3 minutes.
We were just talking about that though. That's so cool. So what is it like? What stage did you get to in that?
So I took 6. I ran in 2016, and I think they've changed the format a little bit since then. But at the time, there were 2 evenings of runs in each city. So I qualified the first night. The first night they go from about 120 people down to 30. And it's the people who finish the fastest or go the farthest. So the year that I ran, 26 people finished the course. And then there were another 4 that went the furthest, the fastest. And then the next night I went back and I took 6th in Atlanta. So they went from 30 athletes down to 15. Those 15 went on to Vegas. I took 6th. I was the first person to complete the 8th obstacle and touch the ninth. Um, and then I went to Vegas and didn't do real well. And then when I was filming my audition video for my second season, I blew my knee out. Like, it was on camera. Had to have my patellar ligament reconstructed. And the show just never called back. So, and that's kind of how it goes. Ninja Warrior is more, I don't want to say it's more of a reality show because the athletes are truly amazing. It's the most supportive group of people I've ever been around. Everybody just wants everybody to do well. Maybe there's some like individual exceptions, but for the most part, everybody's just great. Um, but the when when the episode aired, they gave the accolade of finishing the 8th obstacle and touching the ninth obstacle first to a different athlete who had a better backstory.
Ah,
So, it's that type of stuff. But loved it. I worked at a Ninja Warrior gym for a little while. After I got hurt, I was coaching out of a CrossFit adjacent style gym, and there was a difference of opinion between my regional director and myself about whether or not I should be able to keep my job with a hurt knee. Um, and he thought I should not keep my job, and I thought firing me for getting hurt was unconstitutional. Um, but so I shifted out. I worked at a Ninja Warrior gym and built obstacles and kind of ran that place for about a year. And that's when my ex-wife and I switched. I went home to build hammers full time and be a stay-at-home dad. And she's a very talented video editor and production designer person. So we switched then, and that was 2017. And then the house burned February 2022. Fast forward real quick.
yeah, fast. Yeah, that's a big jump. So what year was it that you did the patent for your product?
Oh, patenting takes forever. I filled out the original paperwork in 2017, and the patent didn't come through until 2021.
Holy shnikes. Thanks for that tip. I need to take a
Indeed.
note.
So there are two types of patents. There's a design patent and there's a utility patent. A design patent is considerably easier. So that's just, okay, here's your design. You own your design. That went through pretty quick. But a utility patent says nobody can make anything that does what your thing does.
Mhm.
And that is a much harder hoop to jump through.
That makes sense.
Like, I was getting regular emails back from the patent lawyer going, hey, it's too close to these 6 things. And I'm like, that's an electric fly swatter. We're not anywhere close. But realizing that every time he has to refile the paperwork, I have to pay another $700 or whatever it was. I was like, okay, I think I'm just fine owning my design. I don't need the other side of it. So it was like finalized in 2017.
They make it a
No,
real
2021.
wow. Okay, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a
Okay.
long,
All right.
long, arduous process. The nice thing is you only have to pay every time they like file paperwork. You don't have to hold the lawyer on retainer. So it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But
So that's such an interesting background that you have, and that's been amazing. I know what we want to talk about today is really about the culture of youth sports and whether it's beneficial, how is it, what are we doing? Now, you said you're currently living in Georgia, which I think is something that we need to bring up as we go into this discussion.
yes, I'm
Because
very sweaty.
Georgia,
I'm currently very sweaty.
not because of the heat, but because Georgia actually is one of the known places for baseball development.
Yeah.
And it is a real core specialization in Georgia. So I think that gives you the fact that you're in Georgia, you're seeing this on a daily basis, you're seeing it with some elite athletes, um, will give you some credibility to what we're about to talk about because like I said, Georgia is known for
Yeah.
developing especially baseball players.
And this area, Cobb County, is baseball and basketball. There's some really good there are really great feeder programs. There are a lot of great schools in Georgia and the surrounding states that have amazing teams. And you do see a lot of focus on travel ball, this year-round sport type thing. And yeah, it's pretty dense. You've got some really bought in families doing a whole lot of stuff. So
Yeah, the first person that I actually had, and it was the first episode. It was the episode before Sydney actually joined the team. Was with one of the guys who owns one of the baseball development things in
oh yeah,
Georgia,
cool,
in Cobb County.
nice. Which
So,
place?
it was. I'm
Is it
trying to think
Rapid?
of. It wasn't Rapid. No.
Okay.
Oh, I know. If I heard it, I would definitely hear.
You'll remember it halfway through the episode and just like shout it at me.
Probably.
That works.
But top. Oh no, top velocity is part of top velocity. What is it? Dang, I can't think of it right off the. I don't want to waste our time with me trying to figure out. But go back to our special YouTube episode because it's not with all our other episodes. Just because it's Sydney pre-Sydney,
Hmm.
but
And
it's
we don't remember a time before Sydney.
we don't.
Before Sydney was here, none of us were
We
here.
don't. Uh, what was your question though before you side tangent into the baseball?
Oh,
Doesn't like baseball, but
no, it was just I want him to talk about being in Georgia. But what concerns you most, I guess, about travel sports culture today?
So the thing that I've seen most is, you kind of got to go bigger and then like dial down the way that we deify athletes in the United States. Some athletes,
Hold on,
nobody,
before you go further,
yeah,
what is DFI? Because some of
DFI.
our audience.
So, the greatest athletes of certain sports are paid well, I don't want to say they're exorbitant amounts of money because that's not economics. If we're willing to pay to see LeBron James play this amazing amount of money, then LeBron James hasn't done anything wrong. He's used the system that, you know, everybody wants to see LeBron James play. Great. My best friend and I right now are talking because the World Cup is going to be in Atlanta over the summer. We're talking about going to see a World Cup game. It's
Also in
worth it.
Philly.
Yeah. But if you look at what an elite level athlete brings to a culture, I don't want to take away from their accomplishment, but what they actually bring to a culture, I have my own reservations about whether or not the volume of money and wealth we are willing to give these people is commensurate, worth it with what they're contributing back. And all you really have to do is put a microphone in an athlete's face and go like, hey, what do you think about this practical thing? And they're like, because we've paid them to put a ball in a hoop or hit a ball with a stick. And, and you're good at it. You're so good at it. That's great. You're wildly entertaining. But if you go back through human history, the way that you keep the Roman people distracted from the fall of the Roman Empire is with the Colosseum. You give them bread, you give them blood. And that's what our country is full of. You can pick your blood. What do we want to see? You want to see basketball? You want to see baseball? You want to see real blood? You want to see MMA? And so there's this path to financial stability, influence. There's a path to that a parent can give a kid to pursue this. And I just see a lot of questionable thought processes being made in exchange for that possibility. When really what you're dealing with is it's like a tenth of a something percent of kids who engage in high level play in high school or middle school, that end up going to these, professional sports teams. And I've met so many of these kids who are hurt. And actually in sometimes in the case of things like baseball, you get kids who are kind of doing the math and going, oh, if I do this to my elbow and I get this surgery, then if I rehab it correctly, maybe I can throw faster. That to me is banana balls. Like, it's like going, hey, you know what? If I cut, they've got those fancy new like foot um prosthetics that look like blades, and if I just amputate below the knee and get these like blade things, I can run faster. And I find myself looking at it going, you're literally talking about like you're talking about blowing out your elbow
Right.
for the possibility of being able to be competitive with all the other kids going like vying for these spots at these elite level universities so that you can go and spend another 4 years trying to like the math ain't mathing on it.
And go back on that a little bit for people that are not as educated about sports. So what is, and you're referring to baseball in
I'm,
this particular
yeah,
analogy.
the example I use is with baseball.
Okay, so like what is it that you have seen or heard that kids are doing, that reference that you just gave? What is the surgery and what can it potentially improve?
Got it. So the surgery is called the Tommy John surgery colloquially. It's there's when it's kind of like an ACL for your elbow is stabilized by some ligamentation. So the upper bone of your arm and the lower bones of your arm are stabilized with some connective tissue. If you rupture that, the reconnective surgery takes, in some cases, it's not always this way. Sometimes it's cadaver, it gets complicated. Come at me in the comments. Here we go. But sometimes what is done is they'll take a piece of connective tissue from the hamstring, the back of the leg, and they'll put it in the elbow to rejoin this thing. And if you rehab it correctly, the average is the kid who it happens to like 30. I think the last number I saw was 34% of young men playing baseball who pitch. If they're playing at an elite level, 34% in the United States will end up with this surgery. And if they do it, the average is they're throwing about 5 miles an hour faster, but
Interesting.
like on the other side. And I've spoken to a couple of parents about this. I've spoken to one guy in particular. I was taking the hammer and working with his son on conditioning the ligamentation of the elbow. Because in my opinion as a coach, the issue is we are encouraging strength development through a certain point in time, and your musculature develops its capacity a lot faster than your ligamentation does, just based on cellular reconstruction and all the rest of it. But he was telling me he talked to several parents who the boys had gotten together on a weekend and gone out to do this. Like they went to a field, they took a bucket of balls, and they were trying to throw 100-yard curveballs because the motion required to do it blows that ligament out. They were purposefully going to blow out their elbow to get this surgery, and like you almost like plan it. You're like,
Parents are involved in this?
the thing is, sometimes, because when the goal is Major League Baseball, when the goal is a Yankees jersey, you know, what we're weighing costs here. And I don't like my son rolls jujitsu and he's been on the shelf injured because he broke his toe and then he broke his wrist. But there's no like college scholarship for folding clothes while somebody's still wearing them. So my son's not going to get a full ride play. He's gonna go to college with a tuba if he decides to go. And I'm damn proud of him for it. But uh, I've had these conversations where like you would have to physically restrain me as a parent to prevent my son, like to not get me to stop my son from going and doing this. I'm like, you're seriously telling me you're going to permanently damage a part of your body for the possibility of a shot? No. God did not make you like this. Your worth as a person is not wrapped up in whether or not you can play Major League Baseball or get paid for it. And for me as a parent, the most important thing about this would be sitting down with my son and going, hey, buddy, some kids are just gifted, like physiologically gifted. Usain Bolt is literally made of different stuff. Like you can find like muscle biopsies about how his musculature is bloody different. He's a freaking X-Man. And so in comparison, and that's not to devalue anything that the guy's done, but when the only way to get value is through achievement. And you set your sights on this incredibly difficult thing. Now the kid doesn't know where their worth comes in. And when somebody comes along and goes, hey, here's a way to be competitive, we're going to destroy this thing. We're going to hurt you. We're going to put you under the knife. And maybe if you do everything right on the way out, you might have a shot. But when,
So
yeah, go ahead.
so before we go, I have a couple questions, but
Bring it on.
before we go, just so Sydney understands, when a Major League Baseball player has Tommy John surgery, he's out for a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it's a long time.
So this isn't something where like you're just spending 6 weeks.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Right.
6 weeks.
No.
This is a year and a half
It's
process.
yeah.
Pretty crazy.
It's a long, arduous process, and but like the schedule of it, when you hearing the guy that I spoke to was talking to me about boys who were sophomores in high school. So we're talking about 15-year-olds weighing the pros and cons of, I can't really get to the point where it's like, okay, save this child by cutting off your ear. We're talking about physical damage to the body.
So
And most of them are going to get to college and they're going to end up with a degree.
Well,
And
statistically, their odds are so low anyways that why are we compromising
Sure.
kids' physical bodies for the chance of, I mean, that, yeah, I get you.
and
but
I,
this
as
is my question. This is my question
Shoot.
because this is an interesting point. In other jobs, if you can cut corners to get ahead, most people are for it. But now if you're trying to cut corners here to go ahead, you're saying, well, is it really worth it? And I'm on your side, but I just want us to look at what
The advocate.
what the whole conversation is,
Sure.
because some people will be like, hold on, rich people have a set of things that they can get around because they're rich, and because my kid, by blowing out his elbow, can get ahead and he can put himself in a different spot.
Mhm.
Then I look at it on the other side and I say, how much of this is kids? How much is this of parents?
Mhm.
Because that's part of the conversation I had with the guy and the previous guy, and he's like, no, the parents. He kind of pushed it away, but I'm like, in my head, I'm like, dude, how many parents are vicariously living through their kids?
Sure.
And maybe my dream of you putting on that Yankees jersey is bigger than your dream for putting on that Yankees jersey. So I'm pushing you into
Yeah.
throwing out your elbow.
Look, and don't get me wrong. If a kid really wants to go there and is truly motivated to do it, they're gonna need the support of a loving household in order to make that happen. The conversation that I end up having with some young athletes and some parents is, if mom or dad no longer pushes the agenda, does the agenda die? If the agenda dies, it's mom or dad's agenda. It's not the kid's agenda. If the kid, if let's say, for example, you've got the next Caitlin Clark, she's 12 and she's like, I want to be Caitlin Clark. That's who I want to be. If mom or dad is not outside feeding her balls from the basket, if she's still out there taking shots, that girl wants it. If she would rather be doing something else and it's mom or dad going, no, it's time to go shoot hoops. Maybe there are some days where that's necessary, but it's also possible that the dream wasn't the kids to begin with.
Yeah.
And as I have a degree in make-believe. I've often joked that my parents were fantastically supportive and they could have stood to be a little less supportive, because the only thing less likely than becoming a pro athlete is becoming a professional actor. So so I have that degree. I have it. And what I would love is to have, when I have this conversation with my son, I'm like, buddy, you want to go to college? We're going to figure out how to go to college. Between your senior year of high school and your freshman year of college, I want you to pick electrician, plumber, welder, HVAC. I want you to get a certification. I want you to work for 9 months making six figures as an infant, as a teenager, and then decide whether or not you want to go. Because if you, I love me some Micro. I think we should force him to be president at this point. But like going, if you don't know who Dirty Jobs, Micro works, he's fantastic. But like demystifying this idea of blue collar and going, do you really need people to worship you to be an actor or an athlete? Because the young men that I've worked with, and for the most part, I've worked with young men. I've had a couple of clients who have been young women, but what I've engaged with is truly like they're hurting. They live in pain. I've seen guys playing basketball as true freshmen on sprained ankles, guys who can't stand on one foot because they've never been taught how to physically live in their own body. You're just it was so funny. It was like uh Michael Jordan basketball, Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Space Jam. I met these 5 guys. This was years ago. I met 5 of the 6 of them. Their families all moved from Nigeria to Cobb County at the same time because they were all basketball players. Every one of them was a freak. He was take the Nigerian marathoner body type, you make it 2 times as big. The shortest one was 6'7", the tallest was 7'4". We're talking about single digit body fat, just monsters. They all played on the same high school basketball team here in Cobb County. So imagine you're going to I'm a freshman, I'm a good freshman basketball player, and you show up and the monster squad rolls out, and you're just like, what am I supposed to do? And of course, coaches everywhere are salivating over these players. Look how big he is. Who cares? He can't stand on one foot. You're telling him to get cortisone injections. He's playing on a sprained ankle all the time because the coach is going, dude, you got to play. We got to win. Nobody's sat down with that kid and gone, hey, you do understand that coach has like a notebook full of people to fill your jersey if you get catastrophically injured, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't pursue it. You want to be a great athlete? Go. You're going to have to be hungry when no one else is hungry. But the time when athletic development really needs to happen is when the kid is young. In the first and second puberty bump, we're talking like 12 to 16, when their ligamentation is not growing nearly as fast as their musculature is. Their long bones are just like shooting up, and we've got all these growing pains and all this stuff going on. But what does the kid hear on the weekend? We got to win. We need to win this weekend. We got to play another game. You got to be playing baseball year round, rather than, no, we're going to play baseball and we're going to play basketball. We're going to create well-developed athleticism over the course of time. Because the athletes that I've seen as adults in the gym, I've gotten to the point where I can pick out somebody in a crowd, like you get a barbell up over their head and go, you played baseball in college, because the arm just goes, and it just drifts back because the ligamentation has been damaged. Or they go, oh, well, I can't. Yeah, I was a gymnast in college, so I can't do this. Well, why can't you do that? Well, because I wanted to go to the Olympics and then I fell, and of course that's going to be the story. But what I've increasingly looked at is going, is this a form of child sacrifice? And that's going to seem crazy to say, but if someone came to me and said, hey, we want to take your son, and we want to cut his knees open, and we want him to never be able to see his friends, and we want him to have sleepless nights and have all of this stress of winning and losing placed on him at this very early age for a tenth of a possibility that he might make money doing it. No, get out of here. But I've worked with parents and I've talked with parents who you go, "Is your kid happy?" And sure, happiness is, it's fleeting, but it kinda harkens back to what I was saying before, is like, is this your dream or is this the kid's dream?
It's it's
And
it's sad because with a lot of the financial stuff too, because a lot of it's like, "Oh, I can make money doing this," right? Well, look at how many professional athletes are broke 5 years after they stop playing athletic sports.
sure.
Then
How many?
then that's just the financial side. You look like one of the people that is famous in Philadelphia is Jason Kelsey, and,
Okay.
Jason Kelsey, dude, one of the reasons why he retired is because he could not get on the ground to play with his kids because his knees were so shot, and he
Mhm.
promised his wife that, like, if he ever stopped losing mobility, he would stop playing. So, like, I'm sure I'm sure that while you're playing, is the greatest thing ever, but what is the rest of your life look at? And I don't think enough people give that too much thought. And then you have the Tiger Woods. You have you and what I mean by this is that Tiger Woods has grown up in this competitive spirit where everything was a competition.
Mhm.
Why do you think he's gotten in these car crashes and accidents? Because he's competing with himself. How fast can I go? Because these guys live on competition. If they're not competing on something, their life is meaningless. So inside of his head, like you talked about Jordan, Jordan still competes in every little thing in his life.
Mhm.
It's a competition because that's how he defines life. He has
Sure.
to win.
And
And and so are we what culture are we really developing?
yeah. And this is gonna sound like a weird twist, but this is why I'm actually very pro steroids. Like, I think they should be mandatory. It like, in professional sport. Yeah, make a face, Sydney, I dare you.
It was the way it's the way that you said it.
Okay, but hear me out, hear me
Okay.
out. Um, Steroids allow for better recovery,
Okay.
okay? So we're telling these people, "Oh, we need you to operate, we need you to operate this elite level, but we're not gonna allow you the best that science has to offer in terms of being able to allow your body to recover."
Is that why they do mild steroid injections after a major surgery?
The last time I did a surgery on somebody, I was not consulted about their post that was funnier than you acted. I have no idea. Um, uh,
I was laughing.
I mean, but like what steroids do is it's not like the steroid builds your muscle. The steroid allows you to recover faster so that you can stress the muscle again. Um, and sure, there are lots of side effects and all the rest of it, but if I this kind of runs along the line of like medical marijuana use in recovery, where I go, opiates are destroying these people, and no one in the history of ever has overdosed on marijuana. If we can make this safe, I don't see the problem here. I see the financial benefit of an institution that is trying to make the most money possible. Of going, oh, it's much more lucrative for this medical institution to get you addicted to opiates as opposed to, you know, smoking a joint, taking a bath. But the to me, it just doesn't make any sense. You go, okay, why are you so upset about this athlete using steroids? Everybody and their dad knew that Mark McGuire and Sammy
Very
Sosa,
so.
yeah, when they were trading that home run thing, we were all like, yeah, more steroids, dude. Like, hit more, hit them further. Heck, yes. Nobody was like, oh no, their kidneys.
Mhm.
But the for these young, so we got two different things going on here. On the one hand, I'm looking at the way that we worship athletes in the United States, and I'm going, have we actually thought about who we're worshiping? When you were in high school, were you cheating off the quarterback's algebra test? No, you weren't cheating off that guy's algebra test. You were going, hey, you guys are going to win this weekend, right? As you were handing him your homework so he could write it down. when I was in college, my freshman year, I lived on the dorm with all the freshman basketball players, like the true freshmen. And you walk into some guy's room. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm studying for my test tomorrow." It's like, "Oh yeah, what, like taking notes?" He's like, "No, they gave me the test. I'm studying the test tomorrow because the school wants wins."
To do well. And I
Yeah,
do think that it's like there's this paradox almost of the fact that it makes schools money. Schools get grants when they have athletes that perform at a higher rate than other schools. So if they can, on paper, get them to do well in the things that are required on a curriculum level, on an academic level, in order for them to play, then they're going to get grants both from the academics and for their sporting. So I think that people just see athletes as somebody that they can buy out. And yes, professional athletes, when you get to that level, make a decent amount of money. I make 10 times what a professional athlete does on average without all of the endorsements that they end up getting from retail partners, politicians, corporations coming and saying, "Hey, you're the official endorser of Gatorade now," or whatever it is. But that's where the actual money comes from. And they haven't ever been taught to think. They've just been taught to operate. Now, I'm not saying that athletes are dumb. I'm not saying that any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that money talks more than having to formulate your own opinions. So when we put these individuals on a pedestal and say, like, your position is to perform, that's what they've been trained to do their whole life anyways. So now when money gets thrown at them to represent something that probably seems innocent to them, they don't ask questions about it or do research. It doesn't matter. Their job is to, like you said, hit the ball, throw the ball in the hoop, whatever it is.
sure.
But
And
isn't that how our whole society works, regardless of
To a
sports?
degree, but not always. I mean, like, you talk about people that work a 9 to 5 or are really important in their corporation, but, like, nobody's coming to them and asking for endorsements if it doesn't directly affect public image or policy. It's has to do with, like, who is this person the face of? How many eyes are on this individual? So, yes and no.
But we're doing the same with social media. We're doing the same with podcasts. We're doing the same with everything.
at the end of the day, it's an arm wrestling match for worth.
Mhm.
And
Totally.
your worth as a person cannot be changed by the state of your physical body. It just can't. And I can prove it to you. Um, so C.S. Lewis has a quote, and I need to, at this point, I've talked about this enough that I need to memorize it. But it's something to the effect of, if you take a concept and you follow it out to its most extreme manifestation, if it's not still good, it was bad to begin with. So if you take the idea that, pick an athlete, um, if I'll pick on Caitlin Clark because I think she's dope. If Caitlin Clark and I walk into a restaurant at the same time, me with my wife and Caitlin Clark with whoever is with Caitlin Clark, because I don't know, and Caitlin Clark gets sat first because she's Caitlin Clark, she puts a ball in a hoop. She plays amazingly. She's great. But her worth as a person has been given greater value because of what she's capable of doing. What happens if Caitlin Clark is in a car accident and loses a leg? God forbid that happens. If she is no longer the Caitlin Clark playing basketball, but is now Caitlin Clark the amputee, and the maitre d' looks at her and goes, "Well, I'm giving it to, like, you, go away." It's no, 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 no. This doesn't work because your worth as a person hasn't changed. Something happened to you. You had something tragic happen to you. If you continue to follow that line of logic out, there's an offshoot of that logic that ends up in eugenics. It's the same theory. It's just, oh, you know what? We can improve the quality of the gene pool if we just tell some people they're not allowed to swim. We can make our whole culture smarter. And then you have some very persuasive person who comes along and goes, who makes culture worse? And then they pick a group of people or a race of people. And they're like, if we could just eliminate all of this,
Mhm.
everything would get better. It's
Right.
the same line of logic. Your worth as a person, you get to get on the life raft of the Titanic if your IQ is 100 or better. But if it's less than 100, nope, you're going down with the ship. No,
We're we're
no.
we're doing that politically right now.
Oh, 100%. We do it, but the thing is we do it everywhere. It's if it's not in athletics. It's in how many resources do you have? Or, it it really is just a different flavor of how is the sin manifesting itself. Um, and that's where I look at it and go, okay, to the parents and the kids moving into this space, I'm not saying don't pursue professional sports. I'm saying understand what the cost is. Do you understand that your kid is a stat? You're putting them in an environment where they're a stat.
Literally.
I've I've been to, one of the nice things about you mentioned this area of Georgia, like there are tournaments for baseball everywhere and like fields and fields and fields. And I've been out there seeing the college scouts with notebooks of every player, every stat. We're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Okay. That's kind of creepy, isn't it? Like, here's a person that I've never met, and they've got 3 pages of like workups on my kid, and they're showing up. Their job, they are paid a salary to study teenagers.
When you say it like
That's
that.
a creepy thing. That's a creepy thing when you say it like that. But they're like, no, we're looking at athleticism and we want to see what's best for our program. Why should I care about your program?
Well, and I really love that you say that because it does give kids a very false pretense as to what defines their worth. I mean, I placed 3rd in state in an event I had never done before in track because
Ooh,
4x4
fancy Sydney.
well, my 4x4 fell out. We had a 4x1 relay, and I guess one of them didn't cut the PR time that was required to participate on her individual. And so my coach called my dad. He was in Texas getting ready to send us to nationals. And he said, I put Sydney in triple jump. I was a long jumper, a high jumper, a 100-meter dash, and the 4x1. That's what I did.
Okay, at least you jumped. I thought you were about to say you.
But it's triple jump is like very, very different.
It's weird. It's very technical.
And I went up to the guy who was checking people in, and there was a college scout there. And the college scout was talking to the guy that was checking people in. And I said, Johnston, checking in. Can you tell me how to do this real quick? And they both put their clipboard down and they were like, what? And I was like, my coach said I have to compete in 3 things to compete in state. I'm going to nationals next week. I need you to show. I don't care if I flunk out, but you got to show me how to do it so that I'm not like a total embarrassment to myself. The guy hands the other check-in coach's clipboard, spends the next 45 minutes giving me a crash course. I placed 3rd in state, and I had college scouts taking notes about me out the ass. And but as a kid, I thought that was so cool. And
of course you do.
And I hated track.
Of course you do. How could you not? You're a 16, 17-year-old kid, and there's a group of people like, look at how well they're doing. Look at how amazing. Look at all the hard work and see what is capable. Of course, that's going to go to a kid's head. Of course it is. And then, of course, when the kid is presented with hey, do you want to take a year off and actually recover your physiology correctly? Or do you want to take this questionable shot in your joint and just maybe see? We've known this is a bad plan. I remember watching Varsity Blues and being like, no, don't give Paul Walker the shot. It's not okay. If you actually lay it out on paper like that, I think most people are in agreement. No, this is not the most important part of this kid's life. And yet, when you're in it, it gets blurry. And there are these, you go, oh, what? But my kid maybe has a shot. Like, yes, your kid, just like all the other kids, maybe has a shot. But the thing that we do to our children in pursuit of that, I think is unhealthy for everybody involved. There was a Russian track and field coach, and I can't remember the guy's name, but the quote that I remember from him is, the best, worst jump training in the world is taking a kid from the hood to the NBA. Because you've got this amazing vertical from a compromised position, and at no point has the kid had a good coach. He's just had a ball and a hoop and the drive to go. So he figured out how to get that vertical up, and then one day his knee is just going to go, or his ankle or his whatever. And then what has the kid been working for this whole time? Well, now it's gone. And who are they? Because I won't say no one, but I think we're doing our young athletes a disservice by not preparing them for what happens if this doesn't work.
So I have a question, but before I have a question, I know Sydney like had all these college, scouts looking at her,
Yeah.
right? I was the anti of Sydney because I had Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, and Oprah Winfrey looking at me going, "What not to do?" And they developed their whole scheme on what I did, and they said, "Don't do that." Um, no, but my question is, so what really is I guess the core of this whole conversation is, and I know for me and Sydney, it's like faith, but
Mhm.
what defines your worth?
Yeah. You
How
here
do you define it?
Yeah, and that is the fundamental question. The most fair thing that has ever been said is all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God.
Mm.
That's the most fair thing that's ever been said because it puts every human being on the face of the planet in the same bucket. We're all on the same side of the line. And in a world where that is not believed, worth is sought through different means. It's sought, and it's not just athletics. I've just happened to fall in. This is so weird, by the way. Like, I played left bench in JV soccer in high school. Like, I'm an actor, which means I go to the gym so that everything below my neck looks like everything above my neck. Like, that's how my manager explained it to me. You can't have a nerd best friend face and like a leading man body or vice versa. Like, that's how it works.
Got it.
John Goodman was having trouble getting work until he gained 100 pounds and then got Roseanne. Like, being the fat guy is castable. My favorite example of this is a guy named Ethan Suplee. You recognize him? I swear you do. He was 400 pounds throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, and he just got to a point where actually, I've heard him talk about this, and the person who kind of lit him up over it was Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in Passion of the Christ. They were doing a movie together, and they met on a plane, and Caviezel sat there with him for the plane ride and was basically like, "You're destroying your body that God gave you to carry around your portion of soul in so you can get an acting career." And that's like a really small example of that story, so it's worth going and listening to. But Jesus gives us our worth. Your worth is, Jesus says, you're worthy of me suffering the worst possible death possible when I was in community with the creator of the universe. Like,
Mhm.
that's where our worth is. So, and the thing thing about that, the thing about the gospel that liberates this focus on um elite athletic culture is do it. And then if something goes wrong, it is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Because what happens to the kid who gets hurt? You know? What happens when your house burns down? Or you come home one day and your spouse and your kids are gone? If my worth is in my success as a husband or my success as a business owner, I should have turned my face to the wall a long time ago. And I look at our young athletes and I see injuries being not considered as serious. And I go, I think Jesus might tell them to take a season off.
Mm.
So I
Mhm.
think that's a great place to come down to our final question before we get into our final segment. But before I do, because I think this is all tied in, there was a post that somebody wrote yesterday and on Facebook, and I just want to read part of it because it kind of my response I think to it was what we're talking about. It says sometimes the strongest people don't break from pressure. They break when everything they built their identity on gets ripped out from under them. The title, the relationship, the image, the control. Or worse, when the very labels they spent their whole life out running get slapped across their chest like a name tag that they didn't choose. And the post goes on, but I think that's encapsulating what we're talking about. And my response is there's only one identity that truly matters, and that is child of God.
Mhm.
And And for me, that's where my worth comes from. That's where my identity comes from. That's where my purpose comes from. And I think it's just, I think that was just beautifully kind of wrapping up kind of what we've been all talking about. You know, you're
Thinking I
chasing these.
posted that.
You did.
Yeah. Yeah. And the gospel does not prevent disappointment. It doesn't.
Doesn't.
No.
No,
And that's where really dangerous prosperity gospel stuff starts to show up.
absolutely. Yeah.
But Jesus is not a genie. Like, that's never what he promised. And in large part, recognizing who he is and what that means for you doesn't make things easier. It makes things harder.
Mhm.
um, More is expected. Christ sacrifices. And but in this particular regard, I think the important thing to bear in mind here is we're talking specifically about youth sports, but it's not specific to youth sports. With acting, it's the same thing. My acting career stopped because I refused to let my face be the face of a thing. Um, I this is gonna be hard. I was supposed to meet Kelsey Grammer the next day to be in a pilot for a show, and the role that I was going to play was one of a Southern Baptist and I was way too young for this in hindsight, but a Southern Baptist pastor who came out to his congregation and they kicked him out of the church. Now, I have friends who have made the choice to say, I love Jesus so much that I am setting aside my predisposition and attraction because Jesus says it's not okay. And I have never seen that portrayed in media, ever.
No.
Never seen somebody say, yes, culturally, you would say I am gay. I'm saying I love Jesus more, so I'm going to be single. I have several friends who have made that sacrifice. And that's how I was playing the character. And the day before I was supposed to meet Kelsey, I was working with the casting director, and he was like, look, man, I love everything you're doing. It's great, but we need you to understand that this role is being used to mock the church. It's not being used to do it's not what you're doing. It's a slap in the face. And I was like, oh, okay. And I took a couple hours and I called my dad and I was like, I had to call the casting director back and be like, look, that can't be me. And the pilot never moved forward, I don't think. Not because of me, but like that was the end of my acting career where I was like, I can't do it. So it's not unique to youth sports,
No, it's
but
not.
when we tell our kids only know what we teach them.
Yes.
And so if we're telling that if the most important part of their life is the sport that they play, even if the parent isn't functionally saying every day, the most important thing about you is the sport that you play. If it is the thing that gets prioritized, isn't that what we're telling them practically?
Well, even like you said, even if it's not sports, an identity built on pressure will always, or built on performance will always collapse under pressure.
Sure. Or maybe it won't. Maybe they're successful. Maybe they are the next, like, oh, we worship you athlete. What happens when gravity wins? This is a conversation I have with athletes in the gym all the time. Gravity wins with everybody. You're going to get saggy and you're going to get old or you're going to die. But like, if you used to be able to deadlift 700 pounds and now you're 85 years old and you just can't do it, does that mean your worth as a person has gone down?
Right.
I would say no, but we live in a system that is like, no, not at all, but get out of the way because I got the guy behind you that can actually do what we're talking about. Because in as much as we seek validation through the sinful lens of our flesh, we also validate the same way. Why else would you get, flustered when you meet your favorite actor or your favorite athlete or your insert, Elon Musk, whoever? If we actually recognized each other as equally sinful, there's no pressure. Oh, you've done something really
Right.
cool. Great. You still need Jesus.
Yeah,
Just like me.
absolutely.
And we're on the same page there.
And that's great. I'm 100% on board with you on all that.
Well, good. That's why I had you on my podcast.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, John. I appreciate your praise, and I agree with it.
And Shawn still needs Jesus.
So that is a great segue to take us to our key takeaway segment.
Key takeaways.
So, my key takeaway is from this conversation is that our worth, our purpose, our identity should be what dictates our decisions, and that we need to look at the whole picture, not just the now or the very future. And not just to look at all the good things, because I think as humans we do that. We go, if I'm an athlete, I can buy my mom a house. I can provide for people who can't do it. I can come up with all the great reasons why having that money would be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But do I look and in that same effort that I've took to make that great list, do I take that same effort and make the bad list?
Mm-hmm.
No, what we usually do is we go, well, maybe I go bankrupt, maybe, we don't give it the same effort. We give it a less effort because we really don't want to look at that side of things. So sit down and really, and again, this doesn't have to just be about sports, it be about everything in life. Our decisions should be logical. Our decisions should be, for me, I pray about my decisions. Um, and I try to look honestly at all aspects. Parents, as at your job, you know, is yes, a lot of parents go, I want my kid to graduate college. I want them to be a doctor. I want them to be a lawyer. I want them to be blah, blah, blah. Again, I do rideshare drivers. I had a lawyer in my car saying, I basically want my life to end because I'm the most miserable person ever. What are we pushing our kids into? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that a lawyer would be somebody would say, that's a good profession.
Yeah.
I did the right thing. I forced my kid into being a lawyer. And yet he's sitting in my car saying, I wish I was dead. So it doesn't just have to be sports. So what are we, as parents, we should want to look at the overall life value that our children can provide. And again, we should be, for me, praying about direction also. But that's my key takeaway. Is it all begins and ends with value.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I'm gonna like snowball off of it. I remember when I quit track, I always hated track. My dad, I called him because he called me actually and said, "Why did you skip track again?" I wasn't home yet. And I said, "Dad, I don't understand what you don't get. I hate track. I'm not going." And I kind of lost it. I was like, I literally hate it. He would make me get up early on the weekends, go to the track. We would do sprints. Like I was conditioning all the time. And I was really, really good, but I hated every minute of it. And I get the discipline that sports can create, and I appreciate that a lot. I think that they're necessary, but I really like what Shawn said earlier about this idea of being well-rounded in disciplines and that it doesn't have to be living out a parent's dream, especially if your child has articulated that they hate what you're making them do. Like if my daughter came to me tomorrow and said, I hate dance, I want to do soccer. Cool, let's do it. It's what's available for my 5-year-old right now. But like discipline doesn't have to equal destruction. And that goes into the surgery thing and just this idea of living out our unfulfilled dreams as parents through our children. But when I told him that I hated track, he said, "Cool, don't come home until you have a job." Like literally, don't show up at my house until you have a job. And I was at the house before he got home from work. And he was like, I told you not to come home till you have a job. I slid my approval for a job application over. I said, I start tomorrow. And he just didn't say anything, closed his laptop and went to his room. But like
How
that
old were you when this happened?
16.
Where'd you get a job?
Oh, it was this little restaurant that was right next to my high school at the time that had just opened.
All right.
Yeah. So
Bet,
like,
Dad.
yeah.
Don't give stipulations if you don't want to be. I mean,
I've
you
always
said.
but I've always wanted to work. Like it's not that it wasn't like I wasn't the kid that didn't want to do sports because I was lazy and I wanted to be playing video games or like smoking weed after school. Like that wasn't me. I wanted to work, but I wanted to work. I didn't want to do track. I didn't like the kids that I went to school with. I hated being around them. I was bullied pretty much all of high school for no reason. And so I didn't want to be around them. And the only thing that I liked about track was that other than my 4x1, it was a solo sport. But a lot of my identity because of that was wrapped up in my performance. And even when it bled into work, it was don't come home till you have a job. So it became a performance task in my mind. It was like, cool. And I was really proud of the fact that I had a job in T minus 30 minutes, quite literally. So,
That is pretty dope. That's expedient. Yeah, because at the end of the if you look at the Christ-centered example, what Christ does is go, nothing you are capable of doing changes what I'm willing to do for you.
mhm,
Accept it or don't. So if your worth can't be affected by decision making, that to me that's more free, because now there is no pressure. Are there responsibilities? Absolutely, yes. But the pressure of being superlative is gone.
mhm,
And I look at how social media affects that's a whole thing. But pro sports is really just a different iteration of the same thing, where we're going, oh, you must be worshipable. And what better way to distract us from the gospel than convince us that we're God?
mhm, mhm.
You know, the enemy doesn't have to make things make sense. He just has to make us miss by a millimeter. And that ain't hard, you know? Um, so in this particular, I really just kind of see it as a symptom. There's like oh, you must. I'm like, must I?
Right.
Because if my effort doesn't change what Christ says about me, I think maybe you're wrong. And that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. Um, the discipline of showing up when you said you're going to show up, good. Of effort when you don't want to, good. But, you know, the ability to say, "Oh, well, because you've accomplished this thing," um, it's all rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, our our world is broken from get.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was it's a good key takeaway. Is that what you would want our listeners to take from today?
I think the thing to take away is, first and foremost, I don't think I'm that smart. So, like, if anything wow, please tell me you almost spit your coffee out. Did you? Did you actually? Oh, okay. So I have a list.
I just
There, there. That would have been number 9. That would have been.
the
That
next
would have
time
been.
I'm on a podcast, I'm gonna say that. What's your I don't think I'm that smart.
That would have been the 9th time in my life that I've actually made somebody do a spit take. It is one of the things about which I am most proud. Like it. All of us
Almost.
are arm wrestling about it and just going, okay, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense. So if if you're a parent and you have a student athlete or a young athlete and you heard what we're listening to and you're like, that guy's an idiot. I'm like, okay, great. Tell you what, pray about it, because he made you and I'm just some person with an acting degree, so I can sound convincing. That's really all acting is. But just, being able to ask yourself, okay, Does your kid think you're gonna love them less if they come to you tomorrow and say, I want to quit? And if the answer is yes, that's worth spending some time with. I'm not even going to say it's positive or negative. I definitely have an opinion, but it's just worth spending some
Why don't you
time.
tell us?
What? It's just worth spending some time with, because if your kid is scared to come to you and say, Dad, Mom, I want to quit, I don't, then functionally they think their worth is in the uniform or on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we are supposed to, for those who know Christ, we know who we're supposed to emulate. For those who don't know Christ, go into a dark room and just say, hey, Jesus, I don't believe in you, prove it. And bet money he shows up. Anyway, but like that's who we're supposed to emulate. And I can't imagine Jesus looking at the disciples and go, who throws the fastest? You get to be Pope.
Right.
That's how he picked. I don't think there are answers in this for me. I just have a lot of questions and go, I don't think this makes sense. I think we're missing something here. And for the person who doesn't belong to Jesus, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Because belonging to Christ is, I think, in large part going to look like a rejection of a lot of social constructs that are thought of as very, very important. Where you go, nah, Jesus says I don't have to care. Oh, your money is so important. I got lots of stories of Jesus looking at people who have a lot of money and going, oh, you think that's important? Cool. Shiny metal. Let's make that your worth. As opposed to the creator of the universe who says you're fearfully and wonderfully made. So, if you have a student athlete and you've got a coach that is selling you a story of like fame and fortune and all the rest of it, I would just encourage caution. Doesn't mean your kid can't be great. Doesn't mean your kid can't be elite as an athlete, but it's never going to be the most important thing about them. And as parents, the way we love our children is we're one of the only people in their lives that are truly going to like want the best for them. And sometimes that doesn't mean getting everything you want. So there's like a bug on me. It's on. Haha, there was a bug on me.
No way.
Yeah, there's been something on my neck, like crawling for like 3 minutes. And I'm trying not to freak out here. But yeah, there's just a bug on my neck. Look at that.
Oh my God.
It was the tiny bug.
Well, why do I just picture fairyland, right?
So.
But what a great takeaway. And so we want to hear your takeaway. What is your takeaway from today's episode? Please let us know in the comments. And while you're letting us know in the comments, take time to hit that subscribe button, especially on YouTube. Our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you can help us reach that goal, we would greatly appreciate it. To you, I know we're just under 200 on YouTube. We're trying to get to 1,000. Please subscribe, share. If this episode has meant something to you, share it to somebody. Let somebody else listen to it. And that's going to bring us to our final segment, the final five.
The final five.
And the first question is, who is your hero and why?
Sydney, who's your hero? Oh, wait,
Really?
is that me?
That's you.
Yeah. Ew.
Oh,
I was like,
heroes.
wow, that was a Uno reverse I was not ready for.
Okay, so, crap, his name escapes me.
Details.
Oh, yeah, okay, so he's a guy from the Bible. He's the only other person besides Jesus that I think you could make an honest, you could be like, okay, we don't know that person really messed up. He's got a name that shows up several times in scripture. Paul gets struck down by light on the road to Damascus, and then he goes and he's blind, and God goes to another dude and is like, hey, I need you to
Oh.
go to where Paul is, like Saul is, the one who's killing people, and I need you to witness to him and tell him about me. And the guy goes, Saul, like, just so we're on the same page, Saul, you want me
Just
to go
on
there?
the same page.
Just, God, I hear you. I just want to make sure you want me to go talk to the guy who's coming here to kill me about you. Yeah. Okay, I'll go. Like, that dude. I want to have faith like that, to be like, hey, Lord,
I don't
heard
know how
you.
to pronounce it, but I found it.
What's his name?
Ananias.
Ananias. Okay. So there's, yes,
Ananias?
that's right.
Yeah.
There's Ananias and Sapphira. Ananias of Ananias and Sapphira.
This is of Damascus.
Jerkwad, yeah. Ananias of Damascus. He's the one who I'm like, if I could have faith like that, that'd be great. To be like, hey, Lord, I'll do it. Just double checking. I just want to make sure you want to send me to witness to the mass murderer. That's what we're going to do? Okay. Got it. Like, that's my, like, if I could be anybody in scripture, I would want to be that guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why I
So-
love this question.
No, that was, I mean, you made us think about that one. Those,
Well, it helps when we have to go, what's the guy's name?
yeah. That's true.
Who's your hero? I can't remember his name.
I don't know. I know what
Yeah,
he
I can't remember his name. He's really important to me.
But he's the guy.
Yeah, this is a guy.
you know? Next question for you is going to be if you could give one piece of wisdom to maybe a student athlete, let's say college or high school age that's listening to this podcast, and something that you said resonated with them, what would you want them to know?
Okay. A race car spends more time with the hood up than the engine on.
Wow.
So you should probably be stretching more than you're training.
I like that. That's good.
Wow, that is good. Especially since I like F1. So
I'm a German sports car person,
Well, nobody's perfect, Sydney. It's okay.
though. I'll forgive you for that.
Yeah, it's all right.
give us back. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's your turn.
What book, quote, verse, or philosophy, or I don't know, anything has either the greatest impact on you, or is your life motto, or is your your go-to?
So, I mean, let's for the sake of this go, all right, read your Bible, daggone it. But we'll kind of assume that's kind of given. Ooh, what book? I do like books. Okay, so the one that's coming to mind, there's a book called Spark. And it's about how our physical lives affect mental stuff. And it is the biggest, like, for me, it's like a death nail in the way that we're doing public education right now. Because it really just goes, hey, kids get easier to teach things if you make them tired physically first. Like, you can drive a kid's grades through the roof if you just run them for 30 minutes before you try and teach them anything. It's remarkably simple. And it's been proven in study after study after study. And yet we continue to go, physical education is not that important. So that's really the one where if I could take like a hardback book and beat every member of Congress over the head with it, that would probably be the one. Yeah, that and the book of Job. Job is useful. Job is my least favorite book in the Bible, where you've got all of your reasons for why you're upset, and then God shows up and goes, I'm sorry, who are you? Speak into my good ear. Talk to me. I think it's an interesting, not to take somebody and go, oh, you're worthless, but feeling worthless and understanding what your actual worth is are two different things.
You mean,
And I think we live
getting in line with your true perspective.
Exactly. And so I wrestle deeply with the book of Job. I love it, but
yeah, that's a good one. I like Job. And James is my other one.
Job.
James
Job.
hurts.
James does hurt.
You read James and you're like, ow, my feeling.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Dang it, James.
Next question for you. You said that you're a big Marvel fan.
Yes.
So who's your favorite Marvel character, but who do you that you relate to the most?
Oh, that's so hard. Okay. If you're not watching Daredevil Born Again, you're a bad person. That's probably inaccurate. That's biblically untrue.
Biblically inaccurate.
Biblically inaccurate. Okay, so I've been a Spider-Man guy my whole life. And one of the
So
things that
hold on, real quick. Who's the best Spider-Man then?
Tom Holland. Um,
Easy.
Tobey Maguire did the best like nerd bit of Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield did the best quipping. So when he puts on the costume and starts speaking differently, I actually know something about this. And you thought the stories up until now were weird. I made up a mascot for my high school when I was a senior because I was weird. And it was just a bag of Lycra in my high school's colors with a zipper at the bottom. So I could take it to games and like get inside it. And I looked like the carpet from Aladdin. And I would just run out onto the field and like start harassing cheerleaders and doing stuff. But when nobody can see your face, aspects of your personality that you don't know are there change. So when Peter puts on the costume and all of a sudden can say the things that he's been afraid to say for a long time, I relate to that very deeply. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man, but one of the things that we have in common, Spider-Man and I, is he's always wanted to be Captain America. And that also, like, you read Captain America comics, the idea of Cap was basically a mutant with no powers. Like, he was that inspiring. He was that guy. So some of the most influential, if you read the comics, some of the most influential moments in Peter Parker's life are moments where Captain America was like, dude, you're doing a good job.
I don't want to digress. Can we settle this once and for all? Because he asked who the best Spider-Man was. Who's the best Joker? I need somebody with an acting degree to tell me.
Heath Ledger is without question the best Joker. Here's why Heath Ledger is the best Joker. If you line all the Jokers up, Heath Ledger is the one you would, if somebody was like, one of these is in your house.
You'd be the most scared.
No, you'd be like, oh, it's the Heath Ledger one. The Heath Ledger one could actually show up in your life. That's actually what's remarkably terrifying about that movie is for the first time, Batman's rogues gallery could be in my life. The Jack Nicholson Joker, he can't exist. He must exist in the world of Tim Burton with Prince playing in the background. Jared Leto, Jared, Jesus loves you and died for your sins if you listen to this podcast. But that Joker also can't functionally show up. The tension of what he created doesn't exist. That Joker doesn't live that long. But the thing about the Heath Ledger one is there's deep trauma that could actually like progress itself if the circumstances are right. So if you said, hey, a Joker from the Batman, actually, you know what? Screw that. The Mark Hamill Joker is the best Joker.
Now I'm thinking.
Okay, Mark Hamill is Luke Skywalker, and he is the voice of the Joker from the Batman animated series. And that is the best Joker. That is the best depiction of Joker that exists. But in terms of live action Jokers, I think the Ledger one is remarkably terrifying. So.
All right. Thank you for.
You're welcome. Let it be known, world, I've settled it. That is the final answer. Moving forward, we shall not discuss it anymore.
It's not even in the table cards.
No, we're not even talking about it. Joker's not even a character any longer. We move forward.
So that segues great into the final question, because the final question is, if you could sit down and have a cup of coffee and a conversation with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's got to be Jesus, but that seems like a it seems like a punting on the answer a little bit, but
You said your hero was who it is, and I can't.
Ananias.
Not.
Ananias.
It had two ends.
Ananias, yeah.
Ananias.
Yes, thank you. I was like, it had two ends. Ananias of Damascus. It is a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Um, if there could be,
you can do that too. So
that's a hard one. Like, there are a handful of people historically that you go, "Ooh, that'd be good. Oof, that'd be good." Um, my prayer life of recently, it probably is very it would be like, "All right, Jesus, I just need you to, like, lay some stuff out for me really quick so I can, like, hang on to this conversation and go with it." Um, but it's gonna stay in the Bible, but I would wanna talk to Jacob. I actually have a tattoo of a fingerprint on one of my
Mm,
hands, um, because Jacob's story is quite tragic. Um, he gets named by his parents deceiver from the beginning, and that name like, that moniker influences almost everything about who he is and what he does for his entire life, until you get to this weird moment where he's asleep and some psycho comes out of the dark and picks a fight. And I think the story is one of the things that's so special about it is Jacob's reaction to this doesn't make any sense. This dude is beating him up, and Jacob is like, "Fine, I will fight you." His trauma is so deep that a stranger picks a fight, and he's like, "I will die until like I would rather die than do anything other than have you, strange person, give me a blessing." What? That is a guy who doesn't know who he is. When a stranger can pick a fight and you're like, "Fine, kill me, bet, I don't care. I have nothing to live for. I have this huge family. I have I have all of this stuff, but I do not know who I am." There's more in that encounter than we actually understand. And I think when the Bible leaves stuff out, God does it on purpose, so we sit there and we wrestle. Um, but I would wanna talk to him about what that morning was like. Okay, you've wrestled with God, literally. He Jacob walked funny for the rest of his life. Like, the Bible tells us that he limped for the rest of his life. And I wanna go, "Tell me about that morning. Your hip is out of joint, and you just realized that you and your creator have gone literally toe to toe all night. But now he's told you who you are. What is that like? You spent your whole life trying to find worth, and now you've got it."
we're like way over time, but I need to know, and I know our viewers need to know, what's the fingerprint tattoo that you're talking about?
Okay, so on my ribs, it says "Free to Struggle." It's a song lyric from a band called 10th Avenue North.
Oh yeah, I know 10th Avenue.
Okay, so hallelujah, we're free to struggle. We're not struggling to be free.
Okay.
Okay, it's a song lyric from one of their first albums. And underneath it is a fingerprint because during the wrestling match between Jacob and a pre-incarnate Christ, was probably a pre-incarnate Christ, he's gonna die. If the sun comes up and Jacob sees his face, he's gonna die. Jacob is gonna die. God does not want Jacob to die. So he touches him on the hip and puts his hip out of joint. Okay, so whether it's a dislocation or a break, we don't really know the specifics of it, but we do know that Jacob limped for the rest of his life. I have a fingerprint tattooed under "Free to Struggle" right on my hip as a reminder that the things I limp with are not punishments. but they're reminders that God gives us exactly what we need, and that includes the pain and the struggle to get us to his feet, knowing who he is at the end of our life. And just because I limp, if I focus on the fact that I limp, I'm going to resent him for that. And too often, I think we don't ask the question of how far away from him would we be if we were actually capable of running.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm limping for the rest of my life, I'm gonna be like, I wish I could run. And if we're not willing to spend the time wrestling with the Lord and going, hey, is this limp necessary for my salvation? Because if it is, 80 years limping is an easy trade for eternity.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so that's why the thumbprint is there. And I had to double check with a tattoo artist that he wasn't like putting evidence on me. I'm like, you didn't get this from like a
You didn't go to a county assessor's page.
oh, this isn't a serial killer, is it? He was like, no, I took a couple of different thumbprints and I like made it up. I was like, okay, great.
Okay. All right. Well, if people want to follow you and your story, do more research on your patent, or just connect with you, where can they go? How can they?
BAMF, BAMF Hammer on Instagram is probably the place that I'm most active. We have a website. It's bamfhammer.com. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I work with a guy named Tank Tolman on the training grounds. I'm one of his online coaches. I'm in lots of different places, but BAMF Hammer is the easiest place.
Awesome.
I think that was the most beautiful way to kind of like the last question and your answer to it, because this whole episode it's been about basically finding your worth. And then you talked about Jacob, who fought to find his worth. And my question to the audience is, what are you going to do to find your worth? What mountains are you willing to climb? Who are you willing to wrestle? What are you willing to do to find out what your worth is? And you should find that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just encourage you to find it out. Look up Wrestling with God and Jacob, and it will bring you to that beautiful story. He refused to let go of God until he got blessed. That's how much your worth is and how much you should care about your worth. But remember, when we take the time to hear someone's story, it gives us the opportunity to find common ground. Thank you again, Shawn, for being our guest today. For Sydney and I, it has been our pleasure being your host, and you have been listening to the Common Ground podcast. God bless and good night.
And that's it for today's episode of the Common Ground podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more perspective, a little more purpose, and a whole lot more inspiration.
So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you to our special guest.
If today's conversation moved you, encouraged you, or challenged you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, rate it, leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more people who need to find their own common ground.
So for John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin,
we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place on the Common Ground podcast.
Please take a moment to listen to this disclosure from the Common Ground podcast. The Common Ground podcast is dedicated to exploring commonality among individuals with diverse perspectives. Our guests may present unique worldviews related to health, psychology, and overall well-being. Please note that the Common Ground podcast does not directly promote or endorse any specific ideas, concepts, or actions discussed during our episodes. Listeners are encouraged to approach the information shared with discernment and to consult with their mental and/or physical health providers before making any changes to their health or wellness practices. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not directly reflect the opinions of the Common Ground podcast. Your well-being is important, and we advocate for informed decision-making. Thanks for listening.